briefly, my name is Sean Neild, State Soil Scientist, NRCS Idaho. With me, I have Maureen Pepper, our State Water Quality Specialist. We're talking about the nitrate leaching potential, a spatial interpretation based on soil properties that's available through Web Soil Survey for all of our published soil survey information. To establish the importance of nitrates in Idaho, I'm going to turn it over to Maureen here to talk about that.
Great. Thanks, Sean. Yeah, welcome everyone. We've got quite a diverse group today because there's a lot of application for what we're going to show you today. Nitrate contamination in Idaho is a pretty significant concern, particularly in our groundwater. There is an effort underway statewide by a handful of agencies, including DEQ, IDWR, USGS, and ISDA, Department of Ag in the state. They do private and public well monitoring across the state to identify areas where there are high nitrates. And in that report that comes out from DEQ and is updated every 6 years, we see that there is the maximum range is 8.9 milligrams per liter to 110. And then the average is 3.3 to 22.6 milligrams per liter. And the maximum contaminant level for drinking water is 10 milligrams per liter. That's why this is significant. This is what is determined by the National Drinking Water Standards as the safe level for human consumption is 10 milligrams per liter. And this is also really important in Idaho because 95% of our drinking water comes from the ground. Either private or public well sources. Public water systems are required by law to treat nitrates that are that meet or exceed the 10 milligrams per liter, but private wells are largely untreated. It is upon the homeowners to test their wells and then determine whether or not to treat it. It is not required for them to treat it, but they have to make that determination themselves. They would like to treat that based on the health risks associated with that. And this really affects our rural areas quite a lot because rurally we are mostly on drinking water, private wells. In this report, it established 35 nitrate priority areas, and these are mapped out and delineated by the state. And we at NRCS Idaho have taken those along with our groundwater management areas that IDWR has identified and put those into what we are calling our source water protection priority areas. And there's a link here to learn more about that. I'm not going to focus on that today. And then the map here on the right indicates those 35 nitrate priority areas.
Sorry.
Here, oh, that's okay. Go ahead, Sean. Here are just some maps and data layer that's available regarding the nitrate priority areas. So on the left, we just have the designated areas, these interactive map, and there'll be a link to this data set in the notes of this. And we're going to make this publicly available on the NRCS YouTube page. And once that's available, we have to get that set up for that. Then on the right are where all the monitoring has occurred. And we can get more information if you're interested from DEQ on kind of plans for the next round. But that will be the last report came out in 2020. So it won't be till 2026 or so that the next one comes out. Just wanted to make everyone aware that this data is available.
Yeah, in fact, I downloaded those data sets for the GIS. It was real easy to do, and we can include that the link for those data sets in the chat here.
Okay, great.
So this idea to have a nitrate leaching potential tool seemed like a good one, and we looked at existing tools. The development of this nitrate leaching potential tool that we're going to show you today is started quite a while ago, several years ago, and we looked at what was available. And Russell 2 has which is a revised universal soil loss equation. has a nitrate leaching index tool, which utilizes hydrologic soil groups, mean annual precip, seasonal precip. And that kind of the big red flag there is hydrologic soil groups. Those are very broad categories. All soils are binned into four groups, and it's really those hydrologic soil groups are designed. They're not designed to predict deep leaching. They're designed to estimate direct runoff from rainfall. So as an example of how soils can get kind of inappropriately grouped for nitrate leaching, both of these soils, I've got an example here of soils that both get binned into hydrologic soil group D, one that's very sandy soil, shallow to bedrock, 20 inches, and then in a very deep clay soil with very low saturated hydraulic conductivity. And they do behave differently in terms of leaching, but they'd be treated similarly with that tool. And so there's a realization that we had probably a better way to look at this information available to us in the National Soil Information System, or NASIS as we call it. This is our national repository for all of our soil survey information. When you're working with Web Soil Survey, you're working with a version of the data out of NASIS. And so this tool uses data coming from the map unit level, which a lot of people will think of when they think of like soil polygons in the Web Soil Survey product. But also it looks at component level data, so individual soils that compose a particular map unit and the soil horizons of those soils. So the different horizons and the horizon thicknesses are taken into account. The different textures are taken into account. And so looking at those properties, we're able to put together data for available water for leaching, so annual precip minuses evapotranspiration, saturated hydraulic conductivity, hours of travel time for water to get through the soil. That's taking into account all the differences in the different soil horizons. Available water capacity, so for a given soil, what's the water content at field capacity? If there's not very much, if there's low available water content, like for a coarse sandy soil, it's going to transmit water more readily versus, say, a silt loam soil that would be able to hang on to more water. Anion exchange capacity. Some soils develop under low pH condition, and in Idaho, andisols would be the type of soils. These are soils with an ashy volcanic parent material, and under low pHs, they develop the ability to hang on to negatively charged constituents in the soil solution, like nitrates. Depth and duration of water table is taken into account, where depth and duration of water with the water table that's close to the surface for a considerable amount of time. You can get volatilization of nitrates, and so it's kind of a minor subtraction from the scenario. And then there's a potential deduction for slope, given that the greater the slope, the more potential for generating runoff versus leaching. So all of these things were taken into account into this model. And for folks that want to get real technical, well, I'm here. I feel some obligation to do that, just to give you an idea of kind of how this thing works. But I'm going to try to go through this fast so that we can get to kind of get into Web Soil Survey and generate some maps utilizing this model that's working behind the scenes. So the way this model works is that each one of those factors that we looked at that I just described, each factor is assigned a value between 0 and 1 based on a curve representing a range of values for that property. So for this example, like we've got KSAT travel time, so the amount of time it takes the water to get through the soil to a depth of 150 centimeters. For a soil that has a really high KSAT travel time, its potential for nitrate leaching is low, so it gets a very low value. If it transmits water readily and that travel time is low, then it can achieve a value of 1. That value of 1 then can be weighted. All the factors are weighted. Then they are summed. Some factors are additive, some are subtractive. We'll look at that real quick. So this is the non-irrigated version of the model. There's an irrigated version and a non-irrigated version that are available in Web Soil Survey. And behind the scenes, this is what's going on. The non-irrigated version is looking at the water available for leaching. So what's falling out of the sky minus evapotranspiration. It's looking at KSAT travel time. How long does it take the water to get through the soil? And it's looking at water holding capacity. What's the ability of the water to retain soil? What's the ability of the soil to retain water at field capacity? And then, so those can total up to 1. If you look at the weights, they add up to 1. And then mitigating or subtractive factors would be a water table where you've got volatilization of nitrates. Slope, the higher slope, you're generating runoff rather than leaching. And then anion exchange capacity. And again, as I mentioned for Idaho, that would be our andisols, mainly in northern Idaho, where you might run into that. So those would be subtractive factors. There's an irrigated version, very similar. The KSAT travel time and the water holding capacity are bumped up in that version a little bit. And then what's falling out of the sky minus evapotranspiration is taken into account in the end. So I'm not going to dwell on that too much. It's very similar. And then so values range up to from 0 to 1 and are busted into rating groups of high, moderately high, moderate, and low. And we've got there's just an example map that's been generated using the tool. Here I had a version of it that I was using in the GIS and just did a screen clip out of there to show you an area around Parma. But we can go, I can bust out of this mode and share a screen with you that is Web Soil Survey.
Just to let everybody know, Web Soil Survey is publicly available. So all the things that Sean's going to show you is available to everyone. Thanks.
And let's see, can everyone see if this comes through on your screen? You should be looking at a map of the US.
Yep, it's there, Sean. Thanks.
All right, great. So this is Web Soil Survey, and for the uninitiated, this isn't really a demo on using Web Soil Survey, but I'll try to present it a little bit that way. The first thing you need to do is indicate an area of interest. This is where it starts. We can tell it, let's see, we were recently out here. We're in the navigation box here, hit the view button, and it takes us to Declo, Idaho. The tools for panning and zooming around are up here in the upper left of this screen. We could pan out a little bit. The next thing you have to do is indicate your area of interest here. I use a click and drag rectangle here. There's also a polygon. You can also import a shapefile. But this is our area of interest, and we're clipping out the soils information in the background. I'm going to click over here on this soil map. I can see that area that I've indicated as crosshatched. So I want to see the soils there. I click on the soil map. It'll give me the soil map with the polygons. I'm clicking on this legend tab on the left here. I'm going to adjust. I always like showing people this. I want my labels to be large and I want my boundaries to be big so they're easy for me to see. Always make that adjustment. There's a lot of information available here. Briefly, any one of these map units that you click on, it'll generate a description of what's going on in that map unit, the soils that are involved and their characteristics. You can click printable version and print out a PDF of that map real quick, or you can click this add to shopping cart. It'll generate a real nice looking report for you when we're done here. And I'll show you how to do that. We're going to go to the nitrate leaching interpretation though. That's really where we're headed and what this presentation is about. So I'll click on the Soil Data Explorer tab. We've defined our area of interest. We've got our soil map. We want to look at land management. Down here in land management, we're going to look at nitrate leaching potential, the irrigated version, because this is irrigated land. If we want to view the description of this tool, which was really well done, these descriptions, I really recommend folks click on them, include them in the information that they pull out of here. They're really good definitions of everything that's in Web Soil Survey in terms of the suitabilities and limitations type maps. So you can read through that at your leisure. We'll use the view rating button to generate the thematic map. And what does it mean? Again, we click the legend button here on the side and it gives us the rating polygons or the symbology for the ratings. High, moderately high, moderate, low, and not rated. For instance, the canal down here is not rated 60, map unit 67. One thing that you don't see right off the bat and you have to scroll down for is the rating reasons. So here's a map unit, Buco Paniog. It's got a high rating. Water travel time is high, so it's transmitting water quite readily. Water holding capacity for this soil a little bit lower. So it's, in the end, the model is calculating a value that's getting us into that 0.76 to 1 category. Drax silt loam down here, 21. That one came out moderate, just giving you a different idea. Some other stuff going on here. Water travel time ranked out at 0.66. So it's not transmitting water quite as rapidly. Didn't get it into that 0.76 to 1 category. So it gives it a moderate rating. If you wanted to find out more about Drax, you could go back here to your soil map. We said that was 21. And click on it. You read a little bit about it. So water travel time is being slowed down. I look at this brief description, the typical profile. We've got a silty clay loam layer in there that the KSAT for that is probably the key thing slowing down our water travel time and giving that the more moderate rating. So a ton of information here at your fingertips. I'm looking for our time. We've blown through quite a bit of our time. I was hoping we'd have more time for some question answer. Real quick, I want to show you before we open it up for that you can add, you say add to shopping cart. It's not going to charge you anything. It's all free. You just say add to shopping cart, click OK. go to the shopping cart and click this checkout button in the upper right and just say get now. We haven't if you've selected a whole bunch of stuff to add to this, it might say download later, which means it would take a long time to generate it on the fly. This should generate something on the fly relatively quick though. That's a brief run through of what that model is and how you might use it in Web Soil Survey to generate a map. Here's the report that it kicks out. You can scroll down through here. By default, the map unit descriptions are included, so those take up quite a few pages. There's your soil map. It includes that. When you get down here to, so those are the map unit descriptions. There's your rating for nitrate leaching potential for this area, and the tabled rating reasons for all of those soils. Your legend is in there. So real handy. There's a load of other information that's available in Web Soil Survey, other interpretations that are that have other applications depending on the use and management that you're looking at. So really, that was the bulk of what I had beyond questions and answers, and just open discussion. And so let's just open it up for that. And Maureen, I don't know if you did a mic mute or if you can unmute.
I don't know if I can unmute everyone.
I was able to unmute
Sean,
myself.
we can.
Oh, unmute yourself.
Excellent.
I did want to say just one thing here is, Sean and I discussed this yesterday, is that the point of showing you this, that this is available, is that people can understand what it is that is beneath our feet, what it is that we are building on, what we're building on it, and is it suitable land and soil to support what it is we're trying to put on there. And it's not to say that these areas that are red that you can't put in a building or a septic system or have an CAFO operation, something like that. It was just more about identifying those lands. And if, yes, there is a higher risk for nitrate leaching in this case, that maybe there's additional mitigation that is done to curb the leaching of sources of nitrate. Also, I think the analogy, Sean, you had the other day was, well, for like building construction, if you're going to put in a house with a basement, well, sure, you could put a house with a basement in there, but you're going to run a sump pump all year long. So just kind of that, knowing what you're, when you're buying a house, building something, knowing what's beneath your feet is really important in the grand scheme of things. And that's why this has many applications, not just for nitrate leaching, but for, construction and things like that. Where we put things and maybe better places to put them, or how we mitigate leaching. Okay, let's see. We've got some hands. The first one I see is Cinda Herrick.
So Cinda, Valley County Planning and Zoning, how accurate is your information and your delineation? I have actually had people submit these maps, and if they say not suitable for septic systems, then they want us to deny a subdivision. I mean, so how detailed are they? Are they accurate?
Yeah, they are for general planning purposes. They certainly do not replace an on-site investigation. So they might give you an indication that there could be an issue. And, I think that's, if the map is raising a little bit of a red flag, it's probably good to go look at it. But they certainly do not replace an on-site investigation. They are, these maps are valid at a 1 to 24,000 scale. they're not predictive of 0.25 acre lots.
Thank you.
You bet.
Eileen Rowan.
Yeah, I was wondering, since we can import our area of interest, can we import like the whole county or a whole nitrate priority area? And will this be able to handle that large of an area?
That is an excellent question. And I hope I have an excellent answer for you. Hang on for a second. And you guys are still seeing my screen, right?
Yes.
I'm going to clear that AOI. So I just hit the clear AOI. I'm going to go down here. I'm on that. So if you see, I've got the AOI tab up here highlighted. I'm going to go look at soil survey area. We're going to go Idaho. And, well, we were in Cache County. Let's go back to Cache County. So let's see. What if we wanted to do Cache County east part, that entire survey area? So I won't be able to get to the entire county, Eileen, but this entire survey area, if I click this button down here that says set AOI, it should load up the entire survey area. Now this might be clunky when we hit the go button on the rating, but it should be able to handle it. I mean, it could take a minute, right? But there's our soil map. You can see there's a lot of detail there, a lot of area covered. But that is the way you get an entire survey area loaded up, is search by survey area, and then click that set as AOI button, and that will allow you to load an entire survey area. Another note on these maps, I guess I should have done this while we were here. You can edit these layer properties if you needed them to be more opaque or less opaque, or the boundaries to be thicker. You can do that here. Where you've got a ton of polygons and you wanted to minimize those bounding lines, you could address that here a little bit. At any rate, more questions?
Alexis Clark.
Thanks, Sean and Maureen. I appreciate the presentation. It's really good information and nice to see this tool come out. My question is, I'm not sure if this is available, but is a GIS format available as opposed to static PDF?
Yeah, so that would be, you'd want to get in touch with me directly on that. And we could work out what you were looking for. I guess let's see, there is one of these, the download soils data tab. If you're looking for an area, so this tab here will let you download any of the survey areas that you like. It'll give you the spatial and tabular data, and it comes with some general instruction on how to use that, but that would be a place to start. If you wanted statewide, you definitely need to get in touch with me.
This is Maureen. One additional thing I wanted to point out, in thinking about the map that Sean was just showing, and the ones we've seen today, is that it's the other application here is for those of us that are in agricultural conservation, things like that. We can use this to prioritize areas as well, areas where there is high nitrate leaching, we can focus on nutrient management on the fields. Also to prioritize projects in areas where there would be things like nutrient reduction management, practices that would curb that. So it could help identify areas to target, but also maybe areas to monitor, project prioritization, things like that. So lots of applications.
Any other questions?
Not seeing any more hands.
Well, our contact info is on the screen for anyone that wants to get a hold of us directly, but go ahead.
Oh, yeah, Darcy Sharp.
Yeah,
Darcy.
I think a couple of us had the same kind of question. So when you showed that larger area like East Cassia County, I was wondering if you could download a shapefile of that, and then you could do some GIS work to clip it to a, sub-watershed or nitrate priority area. So when you showed us that zip file, does that include the soil rating polygons?
That does not include those. We'd have to hook you up with a tool or supply that to you.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, Darcy. I see your question in the chat there.
I should mention too, when I mentioned earlier that NRCS is non-regulatory, although I realize that some folks might look at information like this and think, that would be great to kind of set some rules about things that we can and can't do based on these soil ratings. Just a word of warning to our users out there. This data, the soil data for Idaho, has been being published on an ongoing basis for decades and decades. And now that the state is almost entirely mapped, we're looking at going back through it and seeing areas where the data looks like it might need a closer look. What I'm getting at is that it's possible in some areas for some of the data to get updated based on better and new information as we have the time to investigate. So that makes it a little bit difficult to use this data sometimes for regulatory type purposes. Just a caveat there that some of the soil properties could get updated in the future. So
right. Just to answer Bonnie's question here, yes, we will make this available. We have recorded it. We are going to be publishing this on the NRCS Idaho YouTube page, where you can find lots of great videos. But stay tuned on that. We have to do the 508 compliance on that so that everybody can view it.
Yeah, and I see that we're way over time. I'll apologize to everyone for the pokey start that we got based on my remedial PowerPoint and Microsoft Teams skills there. But hopefully that was useful for folks and they can get something out of it. And please do not hesitate to get a hold of us if you have additional questions. I'd be glad to help.
Hey, thanks, Sean and Maureen. I appreciate you putting this together.
Sure. Thanks.
Yeah, you bet.
Yep. Thanks. Have a good day, everyone.
See you, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Bye.
Thanks for all your help, Maureen.